east in the PD5 zone. On the left, you can see the overall zoning map of the area, and you can see PD5 is actually a very extensive zone. However, only the part in orange is the part that will be affected by the zoning change. And in fact, it is being done because the greenhouse on the bottom part of the square, the rectangle, was built with the understanding that the zoning code would not apply to it because it was not enclosed. However, they have come back and they would like to enclose the space, and in order to do that, they are requesting that the setback be amended from 30 feet to 5 feet. And the area in the orange box is the only part that will be affected by this zoning text amendment. So there is a possibility, if there is future development at 160 East, they could potentially build closer to the road. The city is aware of that, and we don't have any problem with that. Here is the proposed text change. You can see that the only difference is 30 is crossed out, and they have changed it to 5. So staff recommends the Planning Commission forward a positive recommendation to the City Council to amend Article 221117 I2 of the Orem City Code, reducing the setback from 30 feet to 5 feet along 200 East in the PD5 zone. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Is the applicant here? You want to come up, state your name and...
My name's Brady Morris. I work with Ensign Engineering, and I'm representing the owner, Kornweiser Properties, out of California. So I can answer any questions that you have. If you
anything you want to add to what was?
So the developer owner is looking at just basically enclosing the space, make it a lease space for a tenant to occupy, and that's probably it.
Is there a tenant already kind of?
I believe so. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I can release that information. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Is there any questions for?
I think I'm good.
Nope. No. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Right.
Appreciate it.
Bring it back to the committee to see if there's any other concerns or questions. No?
I've got a quick question, maybe for, this would be for Christina. Is there anything that changes with the landscaping? So right now, it looks like there's grass and trees along that. If they build a wall or extend that building, I wonder if that's going to eliminate those trees. Do we know that?
I believe that landscaping strip is required, and so they would not be able to extend the area. They would just be able to enclose what is already there.
Just that piece right there.
Thanks.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion?
This is a public hearing.
Oh,
It's a public hearing, yeah.
This is a public hearing. If anybody has anything to say, they're more than welcome to come up to the podium. It's opened up for you now. Since nobody's coming up, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Bring it back to the commission. Is somebody ready to make a motion?
Sure, I'll motion. I make the motion that the Planning Commission forward a positive recommendation to the City Council to amend Article 22-11-17 I2 of the Orem City Code, reducing the setback from 30 feet to 5 feet along 200 East in the PD5 zone.
Mickey makes a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 3.2.
All right, item 3.2 is also a zoning text amendment and also a public hearing. The applicant requests the city amend Article 22-1148 D2 of the Orem City Code to allow patio covers to encroach into the setback in the PD35 zone. So on your left, once again, you have the zoning map. You can see PD35 is just that set of twin homes right there. And then on the right, you can see the overhead map view. Here is the proposed amendment. The city has gone back and forth with the applicant for probably about a year, trying to find a way that we could allow them to have a patio cover without also inevitably allowing somebody to come and build into the setback. And I believe that our attorney worked on this, and so we feel comfortable that this is acceptable as a way to only allow patio covers to encroach into the setback. And this is being requested because the homes with on the southern part get very hot backyards, especially during the summer, so hot that they are unusable. And so the applicant and the neighborhood are requesting that they be allowed to cover the structure, to cover the area so that they will be usable. Once again, staff recommends the Planning Commission forward a positive recommendation to the City Council to amend Article 22-1148 D2 of the Orem City Code to allow patio covers to encroach into the setback in the PD 35 zone. Be happy to answer questions.
Okay, if we can just clarify. So it says open air patio covers, non-combustible, with no walls, shall be allowed up to 10 feet.
Correct.
Setback attached to the house, patio covering only.
Correct.
Okay. So it cannot be wood.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's very specific to the PD 35
Yes.
zone.
Only PD 35.
And it seems to be only specific to this particular project.
This project is PD 35 only.
That's correct.
Okay. Is the applicant here? Would you mind stepping up? State your name. And
My name is Marshall Madsen. I'm the HOA president.
okay. You want to just give us a little bit of background and
Well,
the work you've done with the neighbors?
yes, sir. We've purchased homes here, largely not knowing that there was a restriction being able to cover the patio. And as has been mentioned, in the summertime, the heat with the patio and the cement wall, which isn't cement, it's drive-it constitution there, becomes very hot and just is virtually not a usable space. So we're asking that we can cover the patio and have some shade and make it into a usable space, only as far as the current fence is, which is 10 feet from the house, the patio fencing going around. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So there's what it looks like 3 or 4 houses to the south there, south neighbors. They've been contacted. They're okay with it as well. The houses along 1340 North there.
They should have gotten a notification in the mail about this meeting.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, it looks like a good project. If the neighbors are good with it and the city finds it that it's a good compromise, because it's been over a year, you said that this discussion's been going on. Any neighbors have any issues?
We're not aware of any. We are neighbors, have heard no negative comments. And as an HOA, we've met several times trying to see what would be workable with the city. You mentioned open air. One of the city's concerns was that the patio cover could someday become a 3-season porch and then someday become an expansion. And we specifically are trying to word that so that that cannot happen. Only open air covered patio. One of the, we've had 4 council members that we've contacted. All 4 of them I think have been to the project. One of them recommended the part about no combustible material. So we're really trying to work any way we can with the city just so we can have patio cover.
And we feel comfortable with the compromise that have been made.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Is 10 feet enough to give you the shade that you need?
It keeps us in the patio fenced area. We're not looking for any more than that.
Okay.
Thank you. This is a public hearing, so you're more than welcome to come up to the mic and share your thoughts or feelings. And just remember, it's for 3 minutes max. I guess we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Bring it back to the commission. Any other questions or feedback?
For me, I'm satisfied. If no one's here complaining about it, then they're probably fine with it. So if anyone else doesn't have anything, I'll make a motion.
Great.
I would make a motion that we forward a positive recommendation to the City Council to amend Article 22-11-48 D2 of the Orem City Code, allowing patio covers to encroach into the setback in the PD 35 zone.
Mike Staker makes a motion. I will go ahead and second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 3.3.
3.3 is also a public hearing. It is a rezone. The applicant requests the city amend the zoning map of Orem City by rezoning the property at approximately 1750 South Geneva Road from the OS5 zone to the M1 zone. On the left, you can see the current zoning map. Right now, the area is OS5, an open space zone. And then on the left, you can see, on the right, you can see the requested, where it is M1 light industrial. The red circle is the 1,000-foot mailing notice area. Here's what the general plan shows. The general plan was approved originally in 2011 after a approximately 9-month process that the city did a lot of outreach and tried to get as many citizens involved as possible.
Can you identify these acronyms just for those who are here?
So the gray LI is light industrial. That is your M1 and M2 and CM zones. The CC is community commercial. That's usually your C2 or C1. LDR in the yellow is low density residential. That is your R8, R12, R20. RDR is rural density residential. That's OS5 or an agricultural zone. PS is professional services. That is usually your office zones. And then once again, we have the LDR down at the bottom.
Okay, thank you.
Here is the proposed site plan. This was just submitted as a reference. We are not voting, you guys are not voting on the site plan, but it's just to give you an idea of what's going to go on here. So staff recommends the Planning Commission forward a positive recommendation to the City Council to amend the zoning map of Orem City by rezoning the property at approximately 1750 South Geneva Road from the OS5 zone to the M1 zone in accordance with the general plan.
Any questions?
But when it was made OS5, what does that mean? What was the point of?
So OS5 was just meant to be kind of a holding zone until the area was developed. It was originally annexed from the county, and so this was just the closest zoning we had to what it was with the county. Sort of an agricultural zone, which is what it is out there right now.
But was there any implied intent of what this would become? Could it become anything, or?
No, the general plan shows what we want it to become. Technically, the City Council could overrule that, but we almost always require them to change the general plan before they rezone to something different than what the general plan states.
And the OS5 represents a minimum of 5 acre plot.
That's correct.
So somebody could, without, just go ahead and build a home as long as they stayed within the 5 acres.
So just like in most of Orem is R8, so a lot of times people will develop in an R8 with 8,000 square foot lots that they then sell out. You could do that in the OS5 zone if you wanted, but those lots would need to be a minimum of 5 acres instead of just the 8,000 square feet that we have in R8. So it's possible, but not very many people want to do it for financial reasons.
2 lots.
Right.
When the city annexed this property, the original intent was to if a developer came in, that they were to approach the city for any
That's correct.
any development and approval from the city, so that this property could be rezoned. So the OS 5 designation, according to my understanding, was just a holding zone, kind of put it in a holding pattern, so that when developers did come, they had to approach the city with any plans for the property.
Correct.
Okay.
Is the applicant here? State your name and city residence.
Jeff Mansell. I represent the company that owns the property. I'm in Sandy, Utah. I've got a vast history with this area, and I want to speak to my request concerning this property specifically, because I do believe wholeheartedly that many of the residents, with what they feel concerning housing down there, is correct for the vast majority of the area. When this area was annexed, and the city paid real close attention to making sure that you would have primarily low-density residential east of Geneva Road. They also have specific restrictions on that, where there can be no additional PD zones unless it's an active adult community, and no stacked flat units of any kind. So the area east of Geneva will maintain itself as low-density residential. However, this specific property and the one directly to the north of it are in an interesting situation, that Geneva will be expanded to its required expansion, which is a 3-lane, well, 2 traffic lanes and 1 turn lane down the middle. Directly to the west of this property is the future Lakeview corridor, which is being constructed, as we know, from the south to the north, and will be up to the 2000 south boundary probably within the next year to 18 months, according to Provo City. Well, that will continue to the west boundary of this property, and that's planned for a 4-lane, two lanes in each direction with a large center median. So a very large collector road with its intent to go out to the airport. So it puts this property and the property directly to the north of it in a triangle of very high traffic patterns in the future. Not now, but in the future. And in the very short future, really, when you talk about somewhere within the next 3 to 5 years, mainly. So the city obviously went through their impact fee studies on this annexation. This was the recommendation that they gave to the city council, and they adopted that. I am developing the parcel directly to the south of this project that is known as PD 43, which has 271 residential units, so high density residential. And that will be the only PD zone on this side as well, on the west side of Geneva. So I agree with the city at this point, as I originally did go to Jason, to the city, to the planning department, and talk about residential, talk about expanding my product into this property. That's when it was brought up that the city would like to see it stick to the general plan, and that they wouldn't support any additional residential in that area, that this is what they wanted me to zone it as, based on the general plan. So I'm here to ask that that gets forwarded with a recommendation for the zone change based on the general plan being adopted already by the city. But I do agree with the residents that west of the Lakeview corridor, there's no reason that couldn't remain as a rural, open, low-density residential area too, as that develops out. Because it certainly will not have the restriction or the traffic congestion that these 2 parcels will. And you've got the lake as your buffer out there. So I do recognize their desire for that. I think the city did listen with what they've done on the east side, and I think there's a reason why these 2 properties are in the zone that they are for both current and future growth in that area. And can I answer any questions?
You're good?
Good, yeah.
This is for Christina. What's a CC again?
Community commercial. Commercial.
So that would be like strip malls?
Community commercial is akin to maybe the strip mall across the street that had Smith's and some restaurants. So not as big as University, but, more than a store. Kind of a mid-range commercial.
And is there anything there yet?
That is Jeff Mansell's property down there.
Actually, the red is not mine. That is Skip Dunn's property.
Oh, that's right.
Currently, UDOT will be putting an intersection in a lighted intersection at the corner of 2000 South in Geneva before school starts for the new high school. I have deeded my property to Provo City, and they're planning on, as soon as Lakeview gets to that point, within the next 18 months, they are planning on extending 2000 South down to Lakeview Corridor. They have my property. They've acquired the other property that they need. And so they are planning that improvement in that area, which is why that corner, I'm sure, is zoned as commercial. But it is not my property. My property is the PD 43 zone you see in the gray there that I'm developing now.
And that's apartments?
No, that's townhomes and active adult community.
So it looks like right now it is still zoned OS5, so we have not had any applicants come in regarding the property. But in the future, we do expect it to be commercial.
Well, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Jeff.
This is a public hearing, so the mic, you can come up to the front of the mic. You have 3 minutes, and we appreciate those who showed up. Please come and share. And just remember that this is being recorded live on YouTube. So come on up. State your name and city of residence.
Dale Johnson, Orem, Utah. If we can go back to the map. My current residence is the square just north of that outlined in the light blue. Yes, that there. I live there. I've been there for about 38 years. Years ago, Orem City asked several of us to be a part of a study. We had experts from all over come, and we ended up submitting to the city a plan for the Lakeview annexation for this area to be residential. We envisioned it a beautiful residential area. As we saw Jeff developing his, where he's got the residences south of the marked piece, we all just assumed, yeah, the city agrees with us. We need residential through there. So when it quickly changed to light industrial or light manufacturing, those of us that live in the area thought we don't want those big ugly boxes in our neighborhood, because we have people living all along Geneva Road there in the neighborhood. The other thing, I'm a real estate broker, and if light industrial goes there, there's no way anybody's going to build a single-family dwelling on a big lot east of Geneva Road because they don't want to look over an industrial park. So that forced the city to go high density east of Geneva Road with a product that will sell. Our hope is to keep it low density residential west of Geneva Road. We realize the conflicts, but light industrial on one side and low density, big, beautiful homes on the other side are incompatible. A developer couldn't ever sell that product with those two fighting each other. And so our hope was that I want to stay where I live, but if that surrounds me with light industrial buildings, I won't like that. But then I go to sell and nobody will buy it as a residence because nobody else wants to live surrounded by light industrial buildings. If the designated area gets approved and then a developer comes along buying the property around me and comes back saying, well, we want residential, that's going to look real bad having residential where Jeff has his beautiful development, then a strip of light industrial, and then back to residential. So we're facing a lot of concerns, but the current zonings, the other thing is that those of us who want to farm the ground don't want it to switch to something that suddenly our taxes are going to go so high that it forces us to have to sell. My time's up. Thanks.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
I'm Danny Johnson. I'm Dale Johnson's son. I reside in Provo right now, but hope to move back to Orem. So my wife and I, our plan has been to hopefully at some point, when development moved this way, to be able to live on the family farm. It's been in our family for generations, and we'd like to kind of keep that legacy going. So we've been interested in hearing that it may be moving from residential to something other than residential. So that's my personal reason for opposing this plan, is I'd like the Johnson piece to remain residential, and I also would not like to live next to something that's light industrial. The other piece is just as a citizen of the community. I live in Provo, but just barely down Geneva Road off this map. You have residential on the east, on the south, on the west, and being that it's a triangle, there is no north side, so this piece is completely surrounded by residential. It makes very little sense to have a piece of industrial, even light industrial, in the middle as an island in this residential area. So for those reasons, I would oppose this change and encourage that this area be changed to have a master plan of being a residential area to maintain a good sense of community. I think this is one of the neighborhoods in Orem that has a very strong sense of community, and very low crime, very low problems, and I'd like it to remain that way and become a beautiful part, adding to Orem City as opposed to just warehouses and other industrial pieces. Thank you.
Thank you.
Elaine Schofield, 1511 South Geneva Road. We own part of the green property to the west, and at this time I don't anticipate development. We're in ag protection, and so is Byron Taylor. So when Mr. Mansell talks about the availability to build houses there, it's pretty remote. I was on the committee that made the plan for this area. We spent a couple of years on it. It went through the Planning Commission. It was okayed by the City Council and the Mayor. Then it was put in a drawer and chosen to be ignored. And I think before any more building goes on here, we need to revisit that plan, and we need to have the time as a community to have input to the plan so that we can have what we would like to have. Most of us have been there since our ancestors, since the 1850s. So we have a long heritage and deep roots in the area. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Byron Taylor. I live in Orem in this area, right by the green parcel there. I guess if I could pick, of course, if I could pick, it would stay agricultural, and I know that's not on the table here. What I wouldn't pick is more high density, and so I know it's not even zoned for, that's not even on the table either, residential is not on the table here. My fear is if it goes residential, it's going to be high density. And so I don't really have a position necessarily. I'd prefer single family homes, but that's not on the table. But I don't want high density. So industrial park, high density, I don't know, it's pick your poison as far as I'm concerned. But my real preference, if it's going to be developed, would be single family homes in that area. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name, excuse me, my name's Cheryl Johnson. I'm Dale Johnson's wife. And I just, have any of you been down in the area? Have you looked around down there? Okay. So this piece that's pink, that's a school for children that are autistic. That's what that piece is. The green piece, you know what that's about right there. So I'm just wondering, is the city so in need for light industrial that they need to pick up that 30 acres in that neighborhood? Is that important? Isn't there enough space between 400 South and 1600 North? nobody lives there. Nobody's going to have a big ugly box or semi-trucks or forklifts or in their backyard. I just really struggle to see the wisdom of putting anything but residential, single-family residence in that area. Thanks.
Thank you. I think we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission.
Do we have a more expanded view of this? So I can see, instead of looking at this chunk, what it looks like with the stuff that's around it?
I will try to find one.
Like a bird's eye.
There's one in Google Maps if you want to go there.
Yeah, I'll find one on Google.
Yeah. Yeah, just do maps.google. Yeah, there we go.
Well, you wanted to see the general plan zoomed out, right? Not just a map.
Yeah, like all the way from, like on the bottom end, there's that Provo Center down there. 2000 South. That's 2000 South. Okay.
Okay. By the way, this plan is available online, and it had city council approval, and it's. I think how many meetings have there been in the past year and a half or so concerning this Geneva Road? Steve, public meetings.
You mean since the property was annexed into the city? Yeah, there's been a few.
And they've been public meetings. There's been nothing done in the dark on them.
No.
So this should be generally well known for those that have been involved in the community. This was meant to be light industrial along the west side of Geneva Road. Okay.
Any other questions while she's trying to find that?
The meaning of life, the universe. There we go.
No,
Okay, so all that light gray there is the light industrial as shown on the general plan.
You want to point? It's this one right down here. Yeah.
Yeah, that lower left-hand corner.
Yeah.
And so.
There we go.
Yeah.
So there's Geneva, which is 114 going up. And so all of that property was meant to be light industrial.
Correct.
Well, meant by
the general plan.
The general
So
plan.
this is Orem building
The
tax
general
base?
plan.
I mean, there's got to be a reason why you'd zone something some way, right? Is this for tax base?
No, this is the general plan, which is different than zoning, is light industrial because that's what we wanted to have down there. I wasn't around when we did it, but from what I understand, it was because they wanted to continue the Orem Business Park, which is this gray piece right up here where the 4 dots are. They wanted to have that continue down Geneva.
I can probably better answer that. 4 or 5 years ago, the city had a Ryan's plan, what's it called? Economic development. We hired a consultant. They came in, did an economic development plan for the whole city. And this is one of the areas that plan was a process open to the public for, it probably went on 6 to 8 months. And part of that recommendation from that plan was that this area be light industrial.
And so that's when we took it to the council and posted at the time when we annexed it in because of that economic development plan.
But yet the lower part of that light industrial is not light industrial. It's the B43 zone. That's residential, right?
Yes, that is the
to the right of
before
BC. Yeah,
correct.
Yeah, it's part of the annexation, and knew that the developer would have to put all the infrastructure in, meaning the sewer and the water down Geneva Road and connect all the services. The city council did opt to rezone that at a little higher density so that he could have the means and the ability to do that, knowing that everybody will be able to plug into that infrastructure when it gets installed.
But it's residential. It's not light industrial.
That is correct. If you look at
didn't follow the general plan on that.
That's correct.
And then the light industrial north of the property in question today, what's there? Remind me.
The big dots.
That is farmland right now.
So it's OS5. Basically, it's a market-driven. City's not requesting this rezone. The city's not buying the property.
Yeah, the city waits for a developer to come, right?
Correct. But as we want it developed going forward, it is light industrial. If you look at the existing park to the north, obviously we're going to have to wait many years because there's some property in the middle that's in an ag protection that may or may never come in. But if it does, we want that whole west side to expand south and pick up and tie into this light industrial.
Paul, you have something to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to tie into some of the things that Jason and Bill were talking about. The reason that Mr. Mansell got his zoning from the city council was kind of what was happening with the general plan on the other side of 2000 South in Provo, some of the zoning that was happening down there. Plus, Mr. Mansell came up with a plan to basically bring utilities to the area, water and sewer. And it was one of those things where he said, okay, I will front the costs on this as long as you have a plan that as other developments happen in the area, I'll be able to get paid back through a process of future development happening. Because, for instance, the autistic school that went in across the street, they initially had to connect to Provo water because Orem didn't even have water in the area, and they had to temporarily do that. And then they had to do some things with they had to delay their sewer connections, but we even had them put in a dry sewer so that when sewer came into the area, they were able to connect to it. But anyway, there were some good reasons why the city council made the decision not to go to take the light industrial all the way to the 2000 South border. And again, it was with, okay, what's happening with Provo across the street, and again the CC or the community commercial. That's going to be the southwest corner of that's going to be a major intersection, very possibly a traffic signal at that corner. And anyway, that's some of the background of why the general plan wasn't specifically followed that far south. The other thing too is you see the two different roads that kind of the Geneva roads, the minor arterial, Lakeview corridors, the major arterial. On kind of that very south end, you have a lot more room to be able to have a nice layout of a residential streets that can kind of work their way through that area and have a nice residential area. Whereas as that triangle goes further to the north, you're more compressed in between two arterial highways. And so that's one of the reasons too why we're thinking that the light industrial might fit. The more you're squished in between those two principal arterial highways, it might make more sense for that light industrial. And again, like Mr. Bill said, that we did some economic development analysis, and having our industrial area or light industrial kind of come down Geneva Road, it all fits in together with our plans, Provo's plans, Lakeview Parkway, the enlarging of the Provo airport, those kinds of things. Light industrial that close to the airport is, anyway, you kind of have to look at the bigger picture. You know, I can understand why people would, like to continue to have residential down in that area, but there has been a lot of study and analysis that's gone into the process.
Okay, thank you. Elaine?
We've been approached by a member of Orem City that said we need more parks, and they wanted ours for a park, and so there's some conflict with what the city wants, because they said Orem is about 60 acres short of park space, and so we've been approached about putting ours into a park, and so parks and industrial don't exactly go together either, especially when they're laid on top of each other. So I think there's some questions that need to be answered before much time goes on. And then as far as our property that's a lot of the green, we just re-upped for another 20 years in Ag Protect just about 2 months ago.
Thank you. And I appreciate what the residents said, and especially the Johnson family that's been there forever. And the arguments are good. I think growth sometimes is painful, and as the master plan shows, and based on what's rolling in from the Provo area, it's a natural, not selection, but it's a natural flow of what happens. But I can see the frustration from the Johnson family. I completely understand that. But it looks like the city has done their due diligence in the studies that we show with the low industrial. And so coming back to the Planning Commission, is there any other thoughts?
Are there any legal issues here that we haven't discussed?
No, not really. I think this is just a policy question, whether, what you feel is the best use down there.
Okay.
Christina, can you give me I know we've talked about the Lakeview corridor going up that western property line. What's the basic path of that road? Where does it go as it goes north?
If you can turn off the general plan map, I can kind of point that out. Well, no, leave it on just for a second. You can kind of see the dashed line.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Basically, it from 2000 south or Provo's 2000 north, it basically follows that dashed line for quite a ways to the north.
Okay.
Now,
You're up to Geneva? Does it connect to Geneva?
Well, and that's where I'm going to go here in a minute. As you turn the map off, though, as you get into the wetland area, I wished I had a pointer that I could touch screen this or whatever, but basically it makes an S curve and kind of connects back into Geneva. So Geneva is going to be the extension. The north part of Geneva is going to be a 4-lane highway, which will S curve over to that area, and most of it's is proposed to come through the wetland area. You might be able to kind of see that. It's the area that's not farmed, and it looks like it might be in more native trees and vegetation and whatever. So the principal road's going to kind of S curve through that area. Okay. We're actually in the process. We have some federal funding to hire a consultant to finalize the design. A few years ago, the City Council approved the alignment. We have that alignment on a map that we can show, and we're now going to finalize that design so that as development occurs, we can actually have a survey meets and bounds that says, hey, this is where it goes. So far, the properties that have come, it's just been on that straight alignment that follows that dashed line, so it's been very easy. It's been very easy to do, but once the utilities are in again, the sewer lift, the sewer line, the water lines, we think that there might be some development pressure. They'll want to be able to tie to those utilities, and that's why we're wanting to finalize that corridor alignment, exact alignment.
On the corridor alignment, just an additional question here. Do they plan to remerge or merge with Geneva Road above 400 North?
Geneva Road would need to come in and
Geneva Road
into the corridor. So
okay.
Geneva Road would be the minor arterial, the Lakeview Parkway, and Geneva Road north of the intersection would be the major artery.
Okay.
with, again, a traffic signal at where, a future traffic signal at where that junction happens.
I think at some of those trip public meetings that we've had, that's been shown how that's going to work, or proposed on how that's going to work.
Yeah, years ago when Provo wanted to have an interchange at our 2000 South and they wanted Lakeview Parkway to tie into there, we asked them pretty please, no, will you look at a different plan? And we came up with, through lots of different corridor analysis, lots of different alignment possibilities, we through a public involvement process, the City Council did adopt an alignment for that corridor.
Okay. Well, this is a recommendation, not a final approval, right?
That's correct.
So this will go from here to the City Council. So is anyone here ready to make a motion?
I'm happy to make a motion.
Okay. Mickey?
I say that the Planning Commission forwards a positive recommendation, or I move that the Planning Commission forwards a positive recommendation to the City Council to amend the zoning map of Orem City by rezoning the property at approximately 1750 South Geneva Road from the OS5 zone to the M1 zone.
Mickey Cochran makes a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Karen Jeffries opposes. Item 3.4.
So the motion passes.
Yeah, the motion is a positive recommendation.
Item 3.4 is a plat amendment and also a public hearing. The applicant requests the city approve the plat amendment for University Place subdivision, Aston North lots 17A and 18A at approximately 700 East, 900 South in the PD 34 zone. Once again, on the left, you have the zoning map, and on the right, you have the overhead. You may remember, I believe it was in January, the Planning Commission approved a site plan for the first Aston North building that will be in the southwest corner of that highlighted section. This is just their plat that is consolidating some of the lots so they are able to build there. Here's what the plat will look like. You can see that there are two lots, 17A and 18A, with a large parking easement between them. So the Development Review Committee has determined this request complies with the Orem City Code. Staff recommends the Planning Commission approve the plat amendment for University Place subdivision, Aston North lots 17A and 18A at approximately 700 East and 900 South in the PD 34 zone. Are there any questions?
Can you go back? What's in the cross-hatched area on that plat?
That is the parking easement.
Oh, so that is the parking, and the cutout is?
That is another property.
Okay.
Okay, is the applicant here? You have anything to add? Okay, this is a public hearing, so we will open it up to the public. It's a very quiet public, so we will close the public hearing.
So nobody from Runner's Corner?
Yeah.
They're surrounded now.
Yeah.
This foot traffic for them, they like this?
Yeah.
So all they're doing is consolidating all of this into a single parcel.
That's correct.
Yes.
Yep.
So the meets and bounds will show that it is a single parcel, and the meets and bounds, it'll be this long as far as the title search goes on. Okay, understood.
Okay, I think it's pretty straightforward. If there's no questions or someone willing to make a motion,
I can do. We're the final approving here. Okay. I will make a motion that we approve the plat amendment for University Place subdivision, Aston North lots 17A and 18A at approximately 700 East and 900 South in the PD 34 zone.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Let's go to the minutes. And I was not here for those minutes, so and no problems.
They're fine.
Yeah, they are good.
good.
That's good. Okay, well.
I move that we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Mickey seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any recommendation or any information from the city? No. No. Okay, well then I will make a motion that we close